I'm here with Dave Thompson, who's going to show me how to catch a carp on floating bread crust, a method I've long wanted to learn about. How's it going, Dave?
It's not too bad. They're a bit finicky today, but we've had a few already.
When you say a few, what does that mean?
We've had 5 or 6 so far. A couple of those are 4 and 5 pounds, so we're not doing too bad.
Mirrors, commons, what are they?
There's a couple of each, actually.
What sort of rod have you got there, Dave?
This particular rod is 12 foot. I use a longer rod because you do, when you're fishing quite far out, need a long rod to pick the line up from the surface and get straight into the fish.
Carbon, I suppose?
It is, yes, yeah. If we're fishing a very short rod, we'll be missing quite a few bites out there.
Why is the float called a controller?
It's really called that because it serves no other purpose than to control the float on its way out. Bite indication is by the line and the bread going.
I see.
The float doesn't actually go down.
Ah, because when I was fishing with Glyn a few days ago, he gave me a loafer, and you've got a controller. It seems that floats have got lots of different names nowadays.
Yes, you can use loafers. When you're casting fair distances though, they're not all that good. And of course, using the bottom end only with those, your line is actually under the water. With one of these, the line is put through the swivel on the top of the float.
Ah, I see.
And the line actually lies on top of the water, which is invisible to the fish.
It's crafty, all these different floats, all these new inventions that have come into fishing in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff to confuse the novice, but the main rule, I think, is to keep it simple. If you keep it simple, there's less to go wrong, basically. I think we'll have another cast, Nick. It's, the wind's blowing it in a bit, so let's have a look.
Yes, that's the trouble with this sort of fishing. You're very vulnerable to the breeze, aren't you?
Okay, well this, as we said, is the controller float. It's a fairly simple bit of equipment. It's got a weight at the bottom, some very buoyant cork in the middle. On the top is actually a swivel, which is embedded in the top of the float there. The line goes through the swivel at the top, so that when it's actually on the top of the water, it sits like that and the line comes off. It's then stopped for the cast with a plastic ledger stop, and then straight through.
About 18 inches away
to the hook. Yeah.
What does that float cost?
These floats are actually quite expensive, so you don't really want to lose many of these in a day's fishing. And there you have it.
Now let's see you put this bread on the end.
Right, well, I actually like to use a roll of bread. The reason for that is that it sits very nicely on the top of the water and you can actually see it from quite a distance.
Yes.
Just trim that down a bit. What we do is to pass the hook right through the bread, turn it round so that when it's cast out it will actually come back into the bread.
I get you, yes.
Just like that. And that will sit on the surface with the line just under the surface going to the controller, and the carp can't see that at all. So that's your bread.
Right. Well,
Shall we cast out?
Action. That's what I want to see. Bang. Right on the spot.
Yes, they're coming up fairly regularly now for the other bits of bread that we put out, so all well and good.
They seem to be more in the sunlight than in the shadow.
Yes, in this type of conditions, I rather think they actually come out to have a play on top of the water, really. When it's really sunny, you can actually see carp basking on the top, putting their back out of the water, and generally having a good time of it.
Like English holiday makers?
Exactly like that, yes. They don't get sunburnt as much, but
No.
they enjoy themselves just as much, I think.
Oh, yes,
There's
now.
one there now,
There is one there.
but you have got to wait.
Ah. He had a go at it, then dropped it.
And sometimes like that, they will take it and drop it again.
He just mouthed it and then ran with it and dropped it. Masses of fish circling out there. Oh,
Yeah, we're in.
marvellous, marvellous, you've hooked one. It's taking line.
Yeah, it's a good fish. It's going for that bush over there, but we'll just stop it there. Yeah, it's out.
Ooh, must have disturbed another fish as you were bringing it in.
Yeah, there's quite a few around that area. So powerful, these fish.
You certainly can't rush them.
No, you've got to be ever so careful. They can turn and run in a second.
It's a nice fish.
There we go, in the net.